Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I'm super excited to be here today. Sorry, I'm only a few minutes late, but I had to get my nails done. And today I'm gonna get to meet with Dulce. We're gonna have one of our conversations, and as you know, we always get very passionate about all of these topics that we discuss. Today, I think we're gonna get into parenting, decisions that we make in order to better show up for our littles. She is a mom, I am a mom. But this is a funny story that you guys might not know about Dulce and I. Um, we met in college, but it feels like, honestly, a lifetime ago. And so it has been so awesome and crazy and interesting and wild for the two of us to reconnect in what we're doing these days, what we're doing lately, how we want to impact our families, ourselves, and the world. Our missions are pretty much very aligned, and it's been such a trip to remember the days from college where we used to go, honestly, dancing. We did a lot of dancing together and work, and yep. Let's see. I'm trying to invite her here, but there's always something. So let me figure this out. It's unable to join. Why are you unable to join? Can you join? Can you? Oh, there she is. I'm like, why is it unable to join? That's weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
So welcome to this
Hi.
space in which we just get to, I don't know, randomly talk about something that we're both very passionate about.
Absolutely. I love it.
How are you today?
I'm good. It's been a busy morning, just with clients and everything. It's a lot, but I'm good. It's a good busy. I like being, I like being busy.
Mm,
Um,
we know.
right
Something
now that
will
you
never.
were, yeah, some things will never change. That's definitely one of them. When we were in college, I was full-time student with you. We were working in the same spot, which we would end up working like 30 to 35 hours a week. Like it'd be crazy because we'd have like shifts from like 3 p.m. to 3 in the morning. Remember? Remember that?
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. And it's so funny how we would just kind of meet at the hallway to like share some coffee and be like, yeah, this is life, right? This is how we do life. And so it almost gave us both permission to show up because I remember that the few nights that we didn't work, we would go out and have fun and be like, yeah, we are like team no sleep anyway, so might as well live a little of the college life. um,
And
it's
then I was in
so
a sorority too. I was trying to do community service, and then we had like classes, so we would be like, I mean, Thelma and I were pretty inseparable, like junior year, sophomore year of college. Like we were, she knew all my business, I knew all her business.
there was really nothing to hide. We were always together, and when people would see us work different shifts, they were like, "What happened? Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "She has a different class. I don't know why she would do that."
How
But
dare
yeah,
you not have the same major as me? How rude of you.
right? Everybody kind of kept on assuming that we were doing like the exact same thing in school wise, but we were not. So anyway, life a lifetime ago we were inseparable, and then like life happened and you had a kiddo, I had kiddos too, and then we reconnected to where this is feels like, honestly, like a completely different life. And even when there's still nights that we work from 3 to 3 in the morning, it's
Now. Mhm.
yeah, in a completely different reality. Don't you find so interesting that a lot of our conversations now are like, oh my gosh, do you remember? And how we thought that was normal and it wasn't?
Yes, all the time. Yes. Because I think like, well, we have very similar backgrounds. We're both Mexican. First generation. Well, for me, I was first generation. I don't know if you're first generation college student, but I was definitely first generation college student here in the States.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, my sister is a little older than me and she went to college. So I don't know if that makes me, yeah, still first generation.
Still first generation because it's still in the same generation, right? Like your
Yeah.
parents didn't. And so we had a lot of things like cultural things in common that we were able to like connect with. And even in the culture, right? Like as I'm continuing to be a therapist and figuring out life, I don't know if I'm ever gonna figure that one out. But in the process of self-development, like there's so much that I'm like, I don't agree with my culture. But we had to like embrace it back then because it felt like we were one in a, I don't know if you felt that way, but I felt like we were one in a million, especially in like the big classes where it was like majority like.
It's so crazy because we definitely had this conversation back in college too. I remember sitting with Jimmy and Alvaro and like thinking like, is this how it's supposed to be? And I don't remember if they were first gen either, but I remember us feeling like the the man, the odd one out. Like this is completely different, and we're just grateful to be here. So we're just gonna take it as it is and not question it. And that I think that's what we actually did. We embraced it. We, with gratitude, got through everything: the full-time job, the full-time college, the full-time friendship, the full-time adventure that we would decide to go on. And very few times would we slow down to question things. But I remember that one of the times that we went to visit your family in Nogales, on the drive back, I was like, I don't, honestly, I think I was pretty tipsy still. But I remember that I
Do
started
you
questioning.
remember we went to Kino Bay?
Yeah, but that was a
And
whole
like,
different trip. On this one, I remember driving back and we were like, don't you feel like sometimes this is wrong? Like this is some of the things that people say and expect from kids is wrong. And we kind of got into that conversation from a place of like, this can't, there's
to be
something
right.
about it.
Yeah, like, yeah, yeah, I remember that.
We couldn't
Yes.
even point our finger on it yet, but we were just like,
But you know what? Like, if I was to look back to the Dulce that I was back then to the Dulce that I'm now, we just had a meeting last Saturday,
mm-hmm.
2 Saturdays ago. I don't know. My days are all jumbled up, but and I was like, I'm so freaking anxious, and that is like such a different side of me because when I was in college, my way of coping was being a hard ass. Like I showed up on the first day of school with a bandana hanging on the side and like my little like chola pants, and I was like, "What's up? Like, you want to fight?" you know.
It's so true.
And
It's so true. And so
now,
I mean, I always feel protected because I have never really been that like that out there. But having my best friend over here, like you obviously, clearly, you don't want to mess with me because have you met her?
and I was always like getting you in these parties and doing it like, "Oh, we can't go to the club. We don't have an ID." And I'm like, "Watch
Let me
this,
show you.
honey."
Let me,
Yes,
let
we are.
how your student car can get you in a lot of places. I remember, yes. And I honestly, I'm so grateful for all of that because it was so fun. And I feel like that is part of the normal college life, that you should definitely live it up, explore things, use your college card to get into places to just see that you can. And those fraternity parties that you took me to were super fun too. But um even then we found so much time to have fun, even if it was in the kitchen when we were waiting to serve on the hotel.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember how much, I mean, I remember back then I was able to carry like 20 plates of food in one hand and squat it and like walk to the banquet and squat it beautifully and like drop stuff off. Like, I mean,
But we honestly didn't really need to work out because we were working out constantly.
literally all the time. That job, moving tables and doing all these things. I don't know. But I like to think back because as I'm doing my self development and as I'm trying to heal from all these wounds, right? Like it's good to see. I think like in my healing process, I'm at a point where I'm healing my 20-year-old version of myself, my college self, and there's so many things that I was like, man, that was so fake. Like I was so like I remember one time getting mad at you because I was yelling, like I was crying with you, and I never allowed anyone to see me cry.
Right. You were
Like
really
it was
upset that I made you cry.
it's so silly, right? Like I mean, to me, it feels silly. But it was one of those traumatic responses that I had. Like that was my way of coping with life. Was like I don't cry. I'm a tough ass. I can deal with whatever life gives me, even if that means I'm self betraying on a daily basis. And like to look at that, right? And even looking at where I am now, where I actually felt nervous last time that we went on a meeting and we were having a conversation about what I do for a living, right? Like you were talking about it, I was like, yes, that's my friend. Like she knows this stuff, right? But like I was like,
I know it. It is so interesting to meet after a lifetime of a journey on self development and healing. Clearly, I'm going through my same process of healing, and the book allowed me to revisit a lot of that time, right? But honestly, now turn the page to where I'm sitting from. I'm so grateful for all of it, even for like, so just to clarify, I don't know if this was the topic of today, but regardless, uh Dulce and I were, when she says inseparable, it was like, I knew what she was eating for breakfast. I wanted to make sure that she would eat lunch, so I was not the mom, but I was definitely more of like the conscious person of like, no, this is like, you don't need to eat, like I know that we're walking for 5 minutes, so that's our eating time. and and I have always poured my feelings on my face, on my sleeve, on my whole thing. There's no way of hiding it, and it's a good thing. And there's a time and a place for everything that I'm kind of working on. But regardless, I wear my feelings on my sleeve. And so Dulce would tell me, "You can't do that. You don't show people your weakness all the time. They don't deserve it. They don't own it. They don't blah." And I appreciate the feedback, but I couldn't help it. Like I would be like, "She's right. I want to be."
that's so funny because now I'm the other person. Like now I'm the one that shows my feelings on the sleeve, and like I'm trying to learn boundaries and trying to learn how to like not show that all the time. So like hearing you say that right now is so like, oh, for me, because I'm like, I was that person. What the fuck happened? A lot of trauma happened. That's the answer. But like being able to hear you say that, it's like, oh, I was able to keep myself safe in a lot of situations. And I was able to do a lot of like crazy. Well, and I was also very impulsive back then, a lot more than I am now. And I think you were that for me, right? Like when I'd be like, it's time to jump. You're like, actually,
Can
let's
we just
not
talk about
jump.
this for a second? I think I was like a gate rail of like, okay, we're gonna be crazy, but up to this point, okay, like the boundary came natural to me, and it did not feel like a boundary. It was just, honestly, most of the time it was out of love. Like, okay, Dulce, and when I made you cry, you were so mad, and I'm like, have you met me? I cry all the time. It doesn't hurt. I haven't died. It's not as bad as you picture it. So it, like, what is the big deal? And it was
What
so
is the big deal?
it was a big deal for you, but I back then I couldn't grasp it because it was my normal. Like I would just feel it, release it, feel it, really, like I wouldn't hold it really in because I honestly I didn't have time. I didn't have time to process things. You didn't either.
I think my coping mechanism or my way of dealing with things, which is ironic that I'm saying this out loud because I'm a fucking therapist, but like I my coping mechanism back then was think about it logically, so therefore you don't have to feel. So if I can like logically think of what I'm feeling and I can like hide in logic to make sense of what's going on, then I got it. I'm golden. Like I don't have to feel anymore because this feeling doesn't make sense. Because in my own trauma, the way that I was raised on tough love. And so if I decided, this is crazy, like I'm just being completely vulnerable here. But I decided in 6th grade after my grandpa passed away that I wasn't going to cry again. That was the commitment because I got shunned for crying. I and it came from a loving, worrying place of my family. It was kind of like, okay, girl, you've been crying a lot. This might not be normal, right? But it felt like, again, trauma is how you perceive it, right? It felt like I got shunned or punished for crying. So I was like, I am taking it upon myself as a little 11-year-old that I am never going to cry again. And I trained myself to never cry again. So for me to cry, like, and I don't know if you remember the time that I cried with you, but it wasn't like a tear cry. It was like, right? Because I never was able to cry. And like I trained myself so well. And even in my healing process, I've been teaching myself how to cry. Like even like when I hear something and I'm like, ooh, there's the emotion. And my default is don't cry. And I'm like, let it cry. And so then I like purposely think of something sad so that a tear can come out,
Oh
and I'm like,
my
yes, I won
girl.
that battle.
Okay, so we're still to this day complete opposites. I can watch a commercial about those collecting donations for pets that are struggling, and I am bawling, especially when I was pregnant, girl. There was nothing stood a chance, and it was so funny because then my wonderful partner would think that it's hilarious to record me and send it to the family, and I'm like watching a commercial. So I mean, I didn't really attach logic to it. It was just emotion, and it processed by itself, and which isn't healthy either. You should probably slow down and say, what am I even feeling, versus just releasing all these emotions that you haven't even fully acknowledged, right? Because if you would have asked me to name the feeling, I'd be like, no, I'm busy crying. Like, no, I don't do that. I just cry it out. So it is
Right.
completely different sense of trauma, because when I cried, I also got in trouble. And my favorite sentence, ¿Quieres que te dé una razón para llorar? Dude, I, like, and one day I found myself telling that to my kids, and I was like, all right, I need to really hone this in, because no, you know.
Yeah, I think I embrace some of the tough love in some of the lessons. I guess that would be the right word. I embrace some of the lessons that I learned with tough love because they've allowed me to survive horrible trauma. And I I got in the trauma in the first place because of tough love. So let me reserve myself a little bit on that one, right? Like maybe if I didn't get tough love, I wouldn't have ended in that situation. Which also included catastrophizing our friendship because of my tough love. Like, ooh, I got vulnerable with her. She saw that side of me. Now I'm weak. Now she can like be my kryptonite. Boom. Let me run the fuck out. Like wall, avoidant, run. Like whenever anybody would get close enough, I'd be like, run, Forrest, because I'm vulnerable now. Like,
Run.
run.
And you really were a fast runner. We know. Yeah, it is. But you know what? Looking back, I think it's incredible that we are here now from a different place of where we can go back and be like, oh my gosh, isn't that crazy that I did that? Because honestly, back then, obviously, you completely broke my heart because you were like my sidekick, my rock, my ride or die, or ride and have fun.
We were literally it.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I think you were my hardest breakup in college. And God knows that I was going out and like talking to kids and stuff. But when you told me like you need to get it together, I cannot always take care of you, and that's it. And I was like, oh my gosh, college got
Because
so lonely.
every time, and let me say this, like every time that I was in a situation where I needed to be taken care of, my mom's response was, don't fucking do that shit. We don't deal with little bitches here. Get your shit together. What the fuck is wrong with you? And so then my default, right, when it comes to having close relationships with people, I was and that's why I ended up in the traumatic events that happened in my life, because whenever I had soft love, whenever a good man came around, I'd be like, this is some bitch ass shit. Why are you not an asshole? You can't
Yeah,
handle me.
so bored. I'd be like, I don't get it. He's clearly not interested. I was like, what are you talking about? This guy is doing everything for your red carpet, and like even I would get a red carpet just because I was your friend. And I was like, what are you talking about? But I mean, I'm sensing a little bit of judgment on your end, and like you can't do that. Like you were doing the best, and I am telling you straight
Oh, for
up.
sure.
I know that I ended up hurt from our friendship back then, and I can still like tell you you were doing the best that you could with what you got. Like, and it showed.
Absolutely.
Everybody knew it.
And we were super young. I mean, like I think we both started college younger because of our birthdays, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
like we were 17 as freshmen.
Yeah.
Like I was drinking at 17, walking from my apartment to my 8 a.m. class. Like literally like, oh, here's my Bud Light so I don't have a hangover. Gloop, 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 gloop. Yeah, because again, this was really hard. Me leaving my family, you know my family. We're like super close, very old school. Everybody like is in everybody's business. Our boundaries are a little questionable. And like I moved to college and I get abandoned because I need to tough it out. I want to go to college and be a big girl. Put on your big girl panties on. And so I didn't have that support, and I was like, oh, this is how life works. And so whenever I felt self-love or vulnerability, it came as a side of weakness versus a side of strength. And so like even having to redefine that and redefining that with my daughter has been huge, because turns out my authentic self is a ball of feelings. Hi. Like that's why we
I mean,
bond,
here's the
bestie.
thing though, and I hate to say this to you because you're probably gonna get triggered, but I had known that the whole time.
I know you knew. We
Like,
made a fucking novella for our project, bitch. Like how much you
and it was a great novella, and it had a lot of
great
feelings.
novella.
It had a lot of feelings involved, and it made clear.
I was like a hopeless romantic. Dude, my second major is Spanish literature.
Yeah, I remember. Like, then I can't remember you. I can't even a straight face over that novella these days. But it was a good one, and you were. It's like tough love. I got it together. Don't mess with me. Don't mess with my friends. Because you were really protective and loyal to all of us. Like if we were under your wing, girl, don't even look at me. Don't roll your eyes. You will
I'm
kill.
still like that. That hasn't changed.
Yeah, no, I know, I can tell. But you would try to fool me, and I was like, no, Dulce, I see through you. I know you don't cry, but I can see you're hurting. You want to talk about it? No. All right. Bye. Because we're in the same circumstances. My parents moved back to Mexico when I went to college because I think my brothers didn't speak Spanish, which is the weirdest thing because I didn't speak English. So whatever. They moved back to Mexico so they could get like the schooling over there and the language under control. And I had no family to go back to finish.
Like we trauma bonded like a motherfucker because literally we were in each other's house all the time. Like if this is not the epitome of like borderline personality disorder, I don't have it. But there's definitely signs when I was younger. Like I remember spilling wine on your carpet and you were like, no, porque para eso Telma is very organized. Everybody who's here she's very like everything goes in a certain space and it has to be this way. And I remember I like dropped a glass of wine and it got stained and you were like, we need to clean it. Like, I'm gonna get fees. I was so butthurt over that. And I didn't say anything because
I was mad about the wine. I was mad about the fee because I also had hardcore roommates, right?
Yeah, I remember
Girl,
that.
I don't have the money to pay this fee over your wine stain, so we're gonna clean this up.
Yeah, but and like in the toughness, that's what I'm trying to say. Like in the toughness, there was such a wounded child that was always afraid of being punished or like not being accepted because I was super clumsy. I've always been extreme ADHD. You know this. Like super clumsy, all over the place. My thoughts are always everywhere. Now I embrace it. My clients love it. I'm like in the middle of my rant. I'm like, actually, and they're like, Dulce, you were telling me about this theory. Oh yeah. Like, not medicated, loving life here. But I was such a sensitive little child. I was such a wounded child. I was so afraid of abandonment that like this like tough shelf came up. And I think the first couple of years of Estrella, my daughter being in the picture, born, I didn't understand that. And I was a tough mom. I was like, no, we don't cry. You keep it together. And it was through work and reading books about parenting that I was like, oh, I'm not doing it right. Something's not okay. Like, and then reflecting back to like, do I want my kid to grow up trying to be a tough ass, or do I want her to be her true self? Because if it comes down to it, like, I think that if we would have met when we were 7 years old, we would have been literally the same, like the same person.
Well, I was never into the tough love thing. I was like the nerd that would hide behind books. So
me too. That's what I'm saying. Like
not like ever start a confrontation. And if a confrontation was started, I would like literally go to an office and hide because I was so afraid of confrontation. And and boundaries, like as I discovered them, felt so hard. Like that felt like confrontation. That felt like, do I do that? Like no, I don't think so. Like I don't. That's not me. You know, I'm the nice girl. And so yes, but then I have I have always cried over everything. So, and I have always gotten crap over, oh my god, here you are again. Like I cannot even take you seriously. Can we have a conversation without tears? Like all
So
the
imagine how triggering it was for me to tell you that you needed to get your shit together and to like
I
do
don't have
that
to.
when you've
I
been
was there.
I I know, but like I'm just, thinking back to it, like how triggering that might have been for you, and I'm sorry for that, right? But again, giving each other grace here. Like when that's the message that you've been receiving all your life.
Right.
Like,
So
you need to start taking care of yourself.
right, not right, and it was, but it was also like she's right. Like now that we are broken up, like now who's gonna take care of me? Who's gonna like who's? I really do need to get it together, and I did become a little bit more of like I don't I don't do friends. Like I just don't have time. Like I didn't even give it like I said. I was very careful. If I had not already met them, I kind of kept me and Alvaro around because we were already super close, and like I was super careful with who I would trust, and or I wouldn't trust at all, and I would just be like, oh, this is just for to have a good time, and this is just like I would justify everything. But the day that I meet my kids and I hear myself saying, "You want a reason to cry?" It all came. It was like full circle, right? Like, oh my gosh, I am turning into the one thing that I still feel in my gut is not okay, right? And so that's where I really got like, okay, I'm not doing this. I need to really get on my own healing because I'm not doing this, and I'm like, and now like every time that my kids cry, one of them is just like me. She wears her feelings on their sleeve. The other one's just like you. She's like a tough girl, and she's like, no, and she just gets mad. And all right, I'm here for hugs whenever you're ready. Like, go want to hit the pillow? Go hit the pillow. It's fine. Do it. But whenever you're ready, I'm here. And like, if you want to cry, cry, girl. I do it all the time.
Yeah, I think that like when I became a mom, and when I became a mom, it was one of the toughest times of my life, hands down. Um, I I was 23 at the time. Actually, when I saw you again, maybe like 3 or 4 years later, I was pregnant. I was maybe like 3 weeks pregnant when I saw you. I was like hiking with my comadre, who is at the time was my best friend. Now she's my daughter's godmother. Um, and I when I got pregnant, something lit up, girl. Something like the minute I was like, there's something weird here. We were at Camelback and we got to the top, and I was like, something down there doesn't feel right. Like something is weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on, but something's up down there. And we get down the mountain, I see you, and I'm like, oh my god, this is Telma, and then drive off or whatever because I completely disassociated from the breakup. I was just like, oh, life happens. Again, going back to the tough ass shit. And I was like, at that point of my life, I was self betraying left and right. I was doing random shit that I wasn't supposed to do, impulsive behavior. I didn't have a Telma to help me, like, stay
Have
on the safer side of things. Yeah, I was just like, psh.
That's something that
And
I always mean for people, like some sort of like a railing. Like, okay, we're gonna play all bowling, but here are your rails, and this is why. And I think that it's like a good thing, but sometimes when I am putting my own railings, I was like, no, 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 no. Can you just stretch it a little bit more? No, no, maybe not really. Not really feels more free. Can we just try that? And we all need that. We all need that, and we all need and it's a lot easier when you allow somebody that you trust to help you with them
I
personally.
think I think the trusting piece didn't become a real thing until about 2 or 3 years ago. Like I didn't become intentional about having good friends since 2 years ago, which is so irrational because I've been a single mom for 10 years now. And I've been by myself in Phoenix without any family. Well, now my brother is here, but I wasn't without any of that for 10 years. And you would think that I'd be like, maybe I need a support system. Like, no, I'm just Wonder Woman and I got all of this and I'm just going to do how I think I should do it, and the end. And I'm not like
one of our other lives, how we looked at friendship completely different, and I was just like, oh no, I like loved our friendship and I looked after it and I would take care of it more than other relationships because I knew I was not gonna marry up any of those guys, but I was like, but this friend I'm gonna keep forever. And so that's so interesting how no having such different definitions of the value of that support system, of that friendship, of that, like, it's because I was burned one, like, yes, take care of me. Yes, let's do this together. Yes, I got your back, you got mine. Yes, I help you with your homework, you help me with mine. Yes, let's write this novella together. Like, it made sense and it made it a lot easier. And for you was like, you're getting too close. Like, no.
well, I think that's the epitome of like avoidant attachment versus anxious attachment, right? And I mean, now because of all the trauma that I lived, because this is where it gets crazy, dude. When I started dating Estrella's dad, my avoidance style turned into anxious style. Because I was trying to figure out how to connect with people and not make the same mistake that I did with you. So then my self-betrayal turned into like, I'm going to be this like defenseless, needy, victimized person in order to get those needs met, because as an avoidant asshole, I can't get them met. So I have to go to the other side of the spectrum. And that's why you're seeing the anxious Dulce that like goes to the meeting and it's like, hi everybody, I promise you I'm confident and I know my shit. Because like I had to go from one side of the pendulum to the other in order to get my needs met. And now I'm like, not anymore because I've been in therapy for a couple of years, but I maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I was definitely a disorganized attachment. And it was a response from the traumatic event. The only person, and this is where it gets interesting, that I feel I've developed a safe attachment with is my daughter.
Well,
I trust her and she trusts me.
and that's amazing, and that's how it should be, because she's your blood, and like that's beautiful. That's the most beautiful thing to say. But I want to correct you really quickly though, because I was in that meeting and I know you are comparing yourself to your past self, to where you're like, own the door and like slam it straight, and people would sense you walking like from a mile, like, oh, this is coming. Most people would be more afraid of you walking into class than the teacher, and for real.
I love that.
Like the meeting that you're anxious and you're not. You're like, you're over judging yourself right there a little bit. Someone that just called you out of love.
Good. No,
Like,
no, yeah, please do. I'm not like
if
back
you
there.
ask
Please.
the ladies that were in that meeting, they were like, oh my gosh, she was so outspoken and so smart. And I'm like, that is Dulce. That's like, at your core, you're still super authentic and like, oh no, I need to say something. I actually, there's a different way that I would explain this. And the anxiety was, I mean, I have known you for far too long, so I kind of, and I am observant, and like I had not seen you in forever, so I was a little extra like, there's something there, but I'm gonna call her out later on, like, at the time and the place, but nobody else noticed. So you're thinking like, oh, I'm the shy. No, you still have a huge.
No, and I think it's like it's been an intentional amount of work to do that. My essence is not gonna go away. I think for a long time, I was TikTok now is like my point of reference and a lot of shit, because there's like a lot of professional people talking there and it's a lot easier to get information than reading a book. And there was a part of TikTok that was this therapist, she was talking about making yourself so meek and so loving and so like in the picture so that you can get those needs met. And I think I did that for a period of time. But the minute I got pregnant, Telma, my claws came out. Like I was just like, I need to protect this child. And even if that means I'm going to create a wrath. But I think like, again, I like swung back to the avoidance style. And I've been kind of like swinging in between like anxious style and avoidance style. And that's why I said disorganized at this point. And trying to figure out how to then like show up as my authentic self and create a safe enough space for my daughter to be her authentic self and feel accepted and loved and seen and all of the above. But it's been a journey. It's been,
Yeah.
I finally, like, I was telling one of my friends, I was like, dang, when I get married, I'm actually gonna have like bridesmaids. That's the thing. Like, because I don't think that I was able, even in like the chaos of college, I was in a sorority and I was closer to you than my sorority sisters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I always found that I'm not even gonna touch on the topic right now.
Interesting.
I
Let's
want
say interesting.
avoid that whole topic altogether. But I, what I wanted to say was the fact that I can definitely relate to the fact that my class came out when I got pregnant, and when I, well, not when I was pregnant. When I was pregnant, I had a lot of fear of like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like, it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of fear, a lot of fear. And then here I was like, oh my God, she doesn't deserve to ever feel this fear that I felt growing up, that I felt throughout my life. So how do I show up brave for her and stuff? And it is, so I feel like with my first daughter, she's the one that was born. I'm like, mommy, you gotta get your claws out, right? Like she would look at me and I was like, all right, it is time. And then I remember one day my husband said, these are the big lakes now. We don't play small anymore. Your kids watching. Like, if something doesn't feel right, you gotta speak up now. When before I would be like, justify it, use my logic, but it's family. Not anymore, right? So yeah, my class came out, and to the point that people were, but Telma used to be so nice and would never speak back. And I'm like, I mean, I'm still nice, but I definitely have something to say.
Well, and I think like that's funny that you're saying that because I'm thinking back of college and I think like I never not thought that you wouldn't speak up, right? So like it's so interesting how we saw each other and
Mm-hmm.
how we saw ourselves, right? Like you were able to see through my bullshit, let's call it what it is, and know that I wasn't such a hard ass, that I was fine, right? And then I was able to see through your bullshit and know that you had this like fire in you that would set those boundaries when you needed to set them.
Oh
But
yes.
like the way that you saw yourself was like this meek, well-behaved woman, where I saw myself as like this fucking tough as that doesn't have any feelings and it was all fake. Like so being able to break those things down and figure out like, well, yeah, you've always been outspoken, Telma. Like I never saw you as not outspoken. Like you've always told me, but do you see what I'm saying? Like the way that I saw you was not the way that you saw yourself. And I think it has to do with being in survival mode, right?
Oh yeah.
Like you're in survival mode and you're like, let me fucking swim this out, even if I'm faking it. But the people who are closest to, because I do think we had a safe attachment during college.
Oh yeah.
Like we were able to see through the bullshit. And I just see my comadre join in. She knows what I'm talking about because she's on it too.
That I mean, and I have told you many times, you were my safe zone. You were like the family that I was craving. You were the friendship that I was so seeking, and that I so valued. So like for me, it was like, yes, I need this, and with this, I'm fine. Like with this, I would almost give it like so much more power than it should have. Um, but yes, I don't know how college would have been without each other. So I am so
I
grateful
agree.
because honestly, regardless of the fact that we worked full time, studied full time, we did some really cool stuff. One weekend that we decided to take off together, we're like, okay, let's go to a beach because why wouldn't we? Like we should probably have a life right now just in case because we work so much, right? So honestly, I really think that well now from a place of like I have done a lot of shit, a lot
Gratefulness.
of things
Yeah.
on, and I have always been super grateful for everything that we encounter in college, even the crappy days of in the dark night when we couldn't find your keys and stuff. Like even that was like, oh my gosh, we did a lot of stuff that we is not considered safe. And now at us mothers, we're like, oh my gosh, how do we raise authentic, brave girls that are in the middle of the spectrum, right? Not the hard asses, not the like, oh, listen to everybody just so it's safe. Like, how can they meet in the middle to where they know how to set boundaries and they feel natural and easy and normal because they are
And they don't have to mask who they are, because I think we were both wearing some sort of mask, right, to like keep ourselves safe in college.
Yeah.
And this is my biggest one for me. I don't ever want my daughter to feel like she's abandoned by me. I I want to make it so safe for her that she's like, Mom, my friends and I are ditching on Friday. Okay, baby muffin, you want me to give you the credit card so you can buy some McDonald's? Let me know where you're at.
Oh my gosh, that
Because
was
it's
totally,
gonna happen.
like, oh I every time that I would skip school, my mom would be fully aware of it and give me like but my dad never knew. And when he found that, I was like, oh, yes, I skipped school many times.
Yeah. No, mine was opposite. Like my mom was like, "What do you mean you skipped school?" And when I had very traumatic events happen, the response was like, "This is what happens for being a dumbass. This is what happens for being sensitive. This is what happens for not setting boundaries. You need to
But
be a tough ass. You don't let anyone in."
in trying to justify the reason as of why you should continue to be a tough one, right? And
Right.
once that you recognize, now that you can recognize that it was your trauma trying to keep, and the survival mode, I mean, with lots of compassion, 'cause, like you,
Absolutely. I
if you
have a
say,
great relationship with my mom now. Like we are like, and I've been able to like have healing conversations with her. Like when you said those things, it really hurt me. And for her to say like, well, what I was thinking at the moment was this and this and this and that, or I learned that behavior from blah 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 blah.
I
And it's
so amazing because honestly, it gives you the like they're so healing. Like when I finally said
Mhm.
to my parents, I did with my mom and I also did with my dad separately, but I felt so empowered and so loved and so seen, like all the things that a child needs. My inner child still was like, wow, they do love you, they do care for you, but it's a hard conversation to have, and it is very triggering to both parties, like to your mom and to you as the conversation's happening, and yet it's the result of it is so magical because it does if I would say that it builds such a bond of trust to where
exactly.
I can tell you anything and I know that you're gonna love me anyway and you can tell me anything and I'm gonna love
That is safe attachment right there.
you.
Like I can be whoever the fuck I am and you're going to love me regardless. You
Mhm.
might get upset over my decision making. You might think otherwise, right? And you're going to give me your 2 cents and I'm going to give you the grace of you giving me your 2 cents because I know you love me. But at
Right.
the end of the day, like no matter what the fuck I do with my, you're going to be there for me. And I think that's where I would like to head with my daughter, which I think I like we're heading in the right direction, in the sense that like I trust my daughter's judgment very much. And I know that my daughter's age is different than your daughter's age, but like I I want to make sure that she feels supported and seen and accepted 100% of the time. 100, even when I'm upset. Like, hey, anger is a normal emotion. I'm a human and I'm having it. So let's figure out how we're going to regulate and then come back to this conversation. And let me make sure that you know very clearly that I love you no matter what.
Right.
It, it,
I
I think like being able to get to that place where it feels comfortable for me as a mother to say that, because being vulnerable like that with your children takes guts, like so much guts.
we're not raised that way. We were not raised to apologize to our kids. We were not raised to show the fact that mommy messed up. Yes, the anger got the best out of me. And like try to explain, not justify it, but explain it because yes, my kids are a lot younger than you, but that doesn't mean that they are not watching. It doesn't make them blind. It
Exactly.
doesn't make them stupid. It doesn't make them like naive to what's going on. Kids are so smart and we are often underestimating their power and observance and everything. They're learning with everything that you do. And yet we didn't get raised to apologize to kids. So like the moment that I started doing that, I could still remember my mom was like,
or or to let the
so that
kids speak up. My daughter speaks up. My daughter has a big mouth. My sass times 10, girl. Times 10. Like she's like, Mom, can you respect my boundaries and give me space right now? She'll say it like that. Like, nope, hands down, doesn't even twitch an eye. Like, can you not convince me to try something that I don't want to eat? Like that, dude. Doesn't twitch it, doesn't bat an eye
but that's
when
all
she says that.
us. Like the fact that she knows that she's not being offensive. She's not trying to like step on your hierarchy. She's not trying to disrespect you. She's just honestly reminding you, I said no. Like, no, thank you. Like my girls told me, no, mommy, no, thank you. All right. And I mean, they're 4, and the 3-year-old is like, no, mommy, no, thank you. All right. My husband is like, oh, mini juice. Is like, yeah, mini, please. And how
Yes.
it is that we get to give them the best of us. So with that, they can make the choices that we hope that they make, right? Out of trust and love.
Well, and the thing is, like, a safe attachment is not just trust of other people, but it's trust in yourself. And hands down, no matter who tells me, I am a good ass mom.
Yeah.
Hands down. Like, it is what it is. Like, I my house might be a mess, this might be this might be that, but I know deep down in my heart that I am a good ass mom. What's up? Like, that's the one thing that I can confidently say. And that's safe attachment. I can keep myself safe. I can keep her safe. She can keep herself safe. Like, it's a that's safe attachment at its finest. So like, I trust my judgment as a mother. I trust my judgment as like things. And even when I don't trust my judgment, I still have the confidence to fuck up and know that I can fix it and it's gonna get better. Right.
Right.
And so like being able to teach that to her and being able to like develop myself enough to say that with the guts that I just did, with the confidence that I just did. But it takes a lot of vulnerability and a lot of I don't knows.
And
And a
yeah,
lot of
I'm saying that, having the guts to say like, I don't know. Let me think about that answer. I need space to reflect on that. Or I'm sorry, I just didn't. I'm not really proud of how I handled that. Can we do a makeover? Oh my gosh, yes. And honestly, as parents, we get so many chances, right, to mess it up and be like, all right, but mommy meant well. Like, I swear to God, I love you to death, but I just saw red. And yes, I feel like that's what builds that safe attachment. The fact that you are showing up for the best that you can, and when you mess up, you mess up, and you own up to it. And your kid does the same. Like the other day, Sophia is like, "Oh yeah, I'm not even gonna say this online, but she came to tell me what she did in school. She's in pre-K, and I'm like, you did what? Why did you do that?" But like explaining how frustrated she was, and I was like, so she consciously did it, but she knows that it's wrong. So I have nothing to say. Like, she already did the whole thing herself, and she's 4. I told her, it's like, oh my God, she knows what she's doing. Did you hear her say how she just, like, it's crazy.
owned it. Yeah. Yeah. Like
And
mine right now has like a little toxic friend in school and she's been dealing with that. And girl, like that's literally, I'm like, so what happened? What did you decide? How was your day today? How did you problem solve that? And she was like, well, I was thinking about it, mom. And like, if she doesn't want to talk to me, I don't want to talk to her either. What a waste of time. I have other friends that I can hang out with. And I was like, okay, queen, do you, boo boo?
yes,
Okay.
no,
Like,
I remember in the mid of Crystal shared something about her daughter. I was saying like, oh no, I just told her like, if you think that you can do that, then no, you don't have to come. Like, I was like, oh my God. And how beautiful. It makes me so proud of the fact that our generation is setting the path for more authenticity, more like, it's not even rudeness, because it's honestly, boundaries are normal, they're healthy, clarity is kind. Like, how awesome is it that we're leading by example and by owning up that every now and then we're just like, oh, I just did that so wrong, but let me show you how you apologize when you do something wrong. Anyways,
how do I give the grace when you apologize to actually forgive you and not like keep being petty and resentful about the one thing that you did? Because I
right.
think that's also a traumatic response, right? Like, oh, I remember the one time that you called me this, and so now I'm gonna hold it over your head forever. Then you shouldn't have accepted their apology, right? And like that's part of the authenticity, right? Like, okay, like are we legit? Like, you do forgive me? You do? Then we're not talking about this anymore
We're
because
not.
we're already moving past it.
It's
And this is how we're gonna
what
fix it.
rich. Like, when we discussed our friendship from the past, it's like, okay, bring it on. Yes, completely. A forgiveness given. Like, I still love you. We're great. And it's a topic we don't ever have to touch upon again. And if we do, it's from a place of growth, from a place of grace, compassion, of like, oh my gosh, can we, how crazy and mind blowing is it that we can go back and look at what's like, wow, we were hurting and nobody was there to really notice or tell us what to do with the pain. And yet we made the best that we could with it. So with that, I'm gonna just call this before I'm gonna start getting emotional and it's been almost an hour, but I could always talk to you forever. I love the passion and the fact that you're making choices out of your authentic self and keep, one by one we can find the perfect spectrum that is your authentic self. You tried one, you tried the other, same girl, same, and yet we have little tiny teachers that remind us that that they're watching. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to continue. Like self-development doesn't stop.
oh
It
no,
continues and continues and continues. And this is the other thing. Pain, anger, sadness are going to continue to happen forever.
and
And
they're
so like being able to normalize that.
right. Why can we not talk about it? I don't get it. That's gonna be our next.
Our next cafecito.
Yeah. Oh, but we're gonna have a calming tea for that one. So as we talk about anger, we don't express it so much. But anyway, thank you for everybody that joined. I hope that you enjoyed the super vulnerable conversation that we had as we brought you back to our college days, where we were titties in a pub and had the best time doing that. So much love. I will see you soon, and thank you for everybody that joined. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye-bye.